Live, 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 live,
Live, live, live.
live.
Live, live, live.
I feel like we're the Muppets that just go, yep, 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 yep,
Yep,
yep, yep,
yep,
yep.
yep,
Live,
yep.
live, live,
Win,
live, live.
win. Football. Football.
10 and 0. 10 and 0. That's right. It's time for the week 11 recap here on the Audible. It is the footballguys.com podcast. It is Cecil, Lammey, and Sigmund Bloom, and we'll get to those Steelers in just a second, but we got to talk about the Browns. What is it? 84% of the teams that win 7 games go on to make the
Right.
postseason, Bloom.
Mhm.
So the Browns now 7-3 after they beat the Eagles 22-17. This game didn't have a lot of action in the first half. By the way, the first game this year where no offensive points were scored in the first half.
Right.
Only what was that? A defensive touchdown there because Carson Wentz, he's not so very good. 21-35, 235 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 INTs for Wentz out there. Dallas Goedert, 5 for 77 and a touch. Richard Rodgers, 2 for 48 and a touch. And it's like when Rodgers caught that touchdown, Bloom, it's like they forgot about Richard Rodgers. Everybody does. But anyway, he got the touchdown, so good for him. Miles Sanders, 16 for 66. Devil, get out on the ground. Miles Sanders, of course, 3 for 15 as a receiver. Jalen Reagor, by the way, 4 for 52. Got to throw that in there for the kid. But the Eagles just rumble, bumble, stumble. Can't get out of their own way, and the Browns get the win.
Yeah, there's a lot here in this one. What's wild is the Eagles are still in the playoffs as of right now. So we'll see what comes of that. The Browns are happy to win ugly, and for the Eagles, it's just ugly. Carson Wentz, Jason Kelce got hurt in this one. Lane Johnson got hurt in this one. So we can make excuses, right? I mean, we can say he's been without his guys, offensive line, and so on, play calling, whatever. But there's a point when the narrative starts to take over, right? You can see it in Wentz, like when he got tackled in the end zone by Olivier Vernon. It wasn't really his fault, but you see the expectation of failure or the internalizing of failure with Carson Wentz. And that's where we are with the Eagles right now, even though they're in first place. So 2020, try to make sense out of it. Try to make sense out of it as help the Browns make that playoff march one step closer. Miles Sanders looks great. Miles Sanders looks like he's a foundational back. He also fumbled a wet ball inside the 5, which really the Eagles came out, moved the ball. Sanders fumbles, and that's also been a narrative. That's also a thing, then this offense kind of grinds to a halt. We saw a pick 6 when Wentz was hit as he threw another one in the red zone as they were trying to come back. It was really his fault. Dallas Goedert got a garbage time touchdown. Rodgers' touchdown came after a turnover for the Eagles. That was what got their offense going. Travis Fulgham, that was fun. Jalen Reagor waiting to have some fun. No fun there. It was just a really rough game for this Eagles offense, and one that makes them seem like, quite frankly, literally losers. And they have to face Seattle next week. So looking like that Washington-Dallas game on Thanksgiving is going to be for first place.
Cleveland, as you mentioned, wet conditions, and Baker the Baby Maker out there sliding around, fumbling the ball himself, but goes 204 yards passing, no touchdowns, no INTs. Nick Chubb, 20 for 114, of course he does. But it was Kareem Hunt getting the red zone work. 13 carries, 11 yards, but 1 rushing touchdown. So if you had Hunt in as a flex, you'll take that, a catch for 10 yards there as well. Not much. Austin Hooper, 3 for 33. Rashard Higgins, 3 for 65. Kadero Hodge, 3 for 73 on the day. Jarvis Landry, 2 for 23. So just nothing here. Conditions, and they have Nick Chubb. They just feed Nick Chubb.
Right.
Done.
See, it's like every week in Cleveland is turn back the clock week. And also the Rust Belt depression, the weather in these Cleveland games. They won 2 out of the 3, lost to the Raiders, but they'll take it. Again, ugly wins, like a quintessential ugly win. And what's sad here is the Eagles' run defense was up to the task, except for one of those Nick Chubb back-breaking runs later in the game. They weren't budging against the Browns running game. So this wasn't one of those games where the Browns running game comes out and just rolls and they can control it. They get some plays from the defense. Remember, Myles Garrett was out for this one, by the way. Vernon, again, with those 3 sacks, including a safety. And that's all they really needed, the defense. Because Mayfield wasn't, he hit some passes. Actually, they came out and moved the ball early. Mayfield passing, moving the ball, and it's Kareem Hunt stopped at the 1 on 4th down. They called it a touchdown, was reversed on replay, and then the Browns offense kind of stalled out. And what you get is, as long as they're controlling the game, low pass volume, no alpha target, a little more for Austin Hooper here in this one. He's coming on a little bit, but really nothing in this passing game. The only time you're looking for something in this passing game, I guess, when they play the Bengals, what did Baker Mayfield have? 5 touchdowns against them. And whenever they're going to trail. Next week's Jacksonville. They're probably not going to trail. This was it. Ugly win, 7-3. Should go to 8-3. Don't want to bloom them next week, Cease. But this might be it. In 2020, the Cleveland Browns are a playoff team.
Yeah.
Sure.
Let
Let it sink in. And the first time ever they beat the Eagles is the new Browns, by the way.
Okay, the new Browns. Better than the old Browns. Okay, Patriots and Texans. This one very interesting. 27-20, the final score. Let's talk Patriots side first. Cam Newton, 365 yards passing, a touchdown, no INTs. The touchdown to Damiere Byrd, 6 for 132 and a touch. Of course, now that everyone starts Jacoby Myers, he goes 3 for 38. Okay, you started Damian Harris. You get 11 for 43 and a touch. That's good. Catch for 11 yards as well. Not much else. They're in crunch time. They're trying to move the ball, Bloom, and he's throwing passes to N'Keal Harry, who's just like dropping them. I'm like, why? Why? James White goes 6 for 64 on the day, also 5 for 19 as a rusher. So Rex Burkhead a little bit banged up. So it's the Damian Harris show, and now featuring Damiere Byrd.
Patriots, it's not the Death Star, right? Like, what's some sort of Star Wars story about some minor thing that the Empire built that wasn't really that strategically important, but we watch it blow up anyway,
It's like the toys that weren't in the movie. I always hated that, Bloom, right? Like, whether it was G.I. Joe or Star Wars, when they'd have something like, wait a second, I haven't seen that before. It's like the troop transport, and you're like, what? That's not in the movie. So, that's what the Patriots are now.
Yeah, that's this version of the Patriots. But remember, last year we saw the Texans deal them another one of those blows that started them spinning sort of off kilter as they headed towards the playoffs. And they were able to beat them pretty soundly in this one, actually. New England feels like a team that doesn't have an identity. It was the Belichick, Brady, Patriots, the defense, the amoeba. And this year, whether it's offense or defense, Cease, like, what's the quintessential qualities of this team? What do they go to when they need to win? I don't know how to answer that question. So here we are. What I'm trying to say is, as a franchise, they're a major crossroads. Even Bill Belichick, like, how many more years does he want to put into rebuilding this? I guess he was born to coach. But we're looking at a Patriots team that's kind of a blank slate going forward. On the offense, what did they have? They had Damian Harris running early, and this was a good matchup against the Texans' run defense, and then they went away from it. Again, identity, right? Cam Newton, you did have some plays that he made to his former teammate in Carolina, Damiere Byrd. Damiere Byrd's first touchdown with the Patriots. But, Jacoby Myers fades back into the background, so we thought we had something there, not so much. Ryan Izzo caught a Hail Mary at the end of, the 10. So that's where his yards came from. So Newton came through, not as a runner, actually as a passer in this one, still showing, hey, Houston's defense, generally play players against Houston's defense, but Detroit's playing them on Thanksgiving. So that's going to be like a what sucks worse than what kind of situation. Again, Rex Burkhead goes down. There was a point, I think it was 2 carts on the screen at the same time. It was brutal. Burrow and Burkhead right next to each other in the Encyclopedia of Football, too. And in both cases, I think a beloved player. We'll talk about Burrow. A beloved player. Because you saw James White, you saw Cam Newton, you saw the comments about Rex Burkhead that, from a teammate perspective, it really hurt them to lose Burkhead. But James White comes on, so now we have some revived fantasy value for James White. And, that's pretty much curtains for this semi-anticipated version of the Patriots. But I think that I have no idea what the next chapter is for this team. The next game is against Arizona, but I think this puts to end any kind of, punch your way out of the corner storylines for this team.
See, only the jock in the village, and I got that totally wrong, is totally right, because they are AT-ATs being taken down by the X-Wings, actually the snow speeders, on Hoth, because they look menacing, right? You look in their binoculars across that frozen tundra, and you see those AT-ATs, and you're like, oh my God, what are those things? And then you figure out, they can't really turn around.
Right.
Just wrap up their legs, and they'll keep walking because they're stupid. So there you go. Texans, they're not dumb because they got rid of Bill O'Brien. Deshaun Watson goes 344 yards, 2 touchdowns, no INTs in this one. And the touchdowns are as follows. Randall Cobb, maybe you had him in as a what the heck flex, maybe 2 for 7 at a touch. And Kiki Cutie, he's a what the heck flex in your heart, Bloom. Every single week, 2 for 10 and a touchdown there. Brandon Cooks, 4 for 85. Jordan Akins, 5 for 83. Will Fuller, 6 for 80. These are all fine days in PPR leagues. Okay, you're going to take that. Deshaun Watson had a rushing touchdown, by the way, 36 yards rushing to lead the team, which tells you about the day for Duke Johnson, 10 for 15, and then 3 for 20 as Johnson was a little bit banged up. So the Texans get the win. It's just in a little different way with a couple of different guys scoring that you weren't expecting.
But the commonality ceases Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson puts the team on his back and says, let's go. You know, it's kind of now this team does have an identity. Deshaun Watson, you know.
Good identity.
Yeah, and J.J. Watt doing his thing. He batted down like 4 passes in this game. One he almost intercepted, and Newton had to actually kind of go. It was going up for a rebound a little higher than J.J. Watt. That was an iconic image from this game. Watson just dealing. I mean, looking very comfortable. Remember, Laramie Tunsil out for this one with an illness and barely any pressure on Watson. Watson, immaculate pockets. How many times have we said that, Cease? Deshaun Watson just taking his time back there. And again, a highlight of the Patriots defense. They were getting run over a few weeks ago. Now, Joe Flacco is dunking on them in the passing game. Deshaun Watson is doing like a maestro effort against them. And Watson also took on Devin McCourty at the goal line and put his shoulder into him and knocked him back like a running back for a touchdown. So this is one of your command performances in this game. Cooks, there was a touchdown call back by penalty. Fuller had a couple of good drives. Didn't see much for them. It was actually Jordan Akins. We keep waiting for this. It's usually split up between Akins and Fells. Akins, obviously the better athlete of the two at this point. And if he can get a role growing, trust growing from Watson, he could be interesting as we continue to try to find tight ends that we can plug in every week. You aren't going to be plugging in Randall Cobb after his touchdown. Beauty. The socks. Can't remember who it was on Twitter. Said you got to bust out the socks, but we're not going to break out the socks unless Kiki Cutie is actually like really earned something. We'll see. Loved seeing it though, and there's just no running game. Duke Johnson is just not there. Not using him a lot in the passing game either. So really, the offense is going to run through Deshaun Watson as it should, and we'll get to see him Thanksgiving morning against Detroit. So that you're going to like that if you're Deshaun Watson, Deshaun Watson's family. It's good to see a showcase game for him because obviously the Texans aren't going to give him one as a team for a while.
Tennessee Titans, Baltimore Ravens, 30-24 in overtime. And of course, it's Derrick Henry leading the way. And A.J. Brown, oh my God, he will not be denied. And we'll talk about this because the Titans, there was a point in this game, you're like, oh, looks like Baltimore's going to pull away. And the Titans kept fighting. They kept fighting. And A.J. Brown, a big part of that fight. That's all he got in this game is fight. Tannehill goes 259, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Touchdowns are like this. A.J. Brown, 4 for 62 and a touchdown where he just ran through like 7 tackles, whatever it was. Jonnu Smith, 4 for 20 and the touchdown there. Corey Davis, 5 for 113. If you started him, you're happy with that. You didn't start anyone else from this team except for Derrick Henry. 28 carries, 133 yards, 1 rushing touchdown to seal this victory, and a big victory, Bloom, because as in the preview show you said, these two teams, the season is teetering. This game was huge for both of these teams, and Tennessee came out on top.
Tennessee landed the last punches. This was a really fascinating matchup coming in, the marquee game of the early game slate. See, they almost had a coach-on-coach scrap at midfield as the Titans go out to midfield and have a team meeting before the game on the Ravens logo. Remember how the Titans dismissed the Ravens from the playoffs last year. So obviously it's on these teams' minds. You know, they got a history. They both want to be bullies. Both of these teams want to be bullies. The biggest bully is A.J. Brown, though. A.J. Brown. This was a game that, as you said, it appeared there was a point that it felt like the Ravens had control of this game. A.J. Brown, the star, or the player you'll really remember, as he got a pass interference penalty that was key in a drive, but it was the last 2 catches he had as the Titans down 5, closing minutes. And see, you watch enough football that your brain kind of completes plays before they're done.
Right.
And most of the time, the plays stay somewhat adhering to the expectations your brain has for what's going to happen. Twice in a row, A.J. Brown, I mean, it looked like it was going to take 4, 5, 6 guys to bring him down. And on the touchdown, I don't know if anyone was going to bring him down. I mean, it just truly would not be refused. The Ravens defensive players just turned into dust whenever they tried to tackle A.J. Brown. It was incredible. He was banged up in this one. We got to remember, too, that A.J. Brown is taking off every Thursday practice. I mean, he's dealing with something. And you wouldn't know it on those plays. And see, so I think this also tells us something about Mike Vrabel and just the leadership and culture of this team. Because remember, this team they've gone through the COVID thing. This is a game. So see, it's like we make excuses, right? Oh, Carson Wentz injury. Taylor Lewan is out. Roger Saffold is out. Ben Jones, normal center, is out. We're not making excuses for Ryan Tannehill because he really rose to the occasion in this one. And that meant Corey Davis rose to the occasion. Corey Davis is playing well. And he's earning himself some money. He's just playing like a technician, really, out there and getting big catches for them. Johnny Smith gets a touchdown, leads tight ends and touchdowns. Also a little banged up in this one. Watch out for Anthony Ferkser. He can be productive. We'll see when Adam Humphries can get back there on the field. And oh, yeah, that guy, Shaka, Derrick Henry. And it's just one of those things, man, Derrick Henry, like the Grim Reaper. I mean, he's going to catch up with you eventually. He does it in overtime. Fitting. Really fitting, an incredible game here. And just last week, we saw the Colts pantsing the Titans at their place. And they get to play again next week. So that'll be one to look forward to.
One to look forward to. Ravens side of things. Mandrew, 5 for 96 and a touchdown from Lamar Jackson. Beautiful throw, by the way. And showing for the people like, Jackson can't throw. Well, he's throwing with touch, and he also directed Andrews to the opposite shoulder because that play should go to the inside, and he led him outside away from coverage, and it was 6 points. So Mandrew did quite a bit. Lamar Jackson, by the way, 186, 1 up and 1 down. Des Bryant out there activated off the practice squad, 4 for 28, including some crunch time plays. Willie Snead, 3 for 23. Could have had more, except there were some drops, some big hits in this one too, leading guys to, maybe drop some passes. Marquise Brown, speaking of drop, cue the Chuck D. J.K. Dobbins, 15 for 70. Like seeing that, right? Because Mark Ingram was back. He got a couple carries. Gus Edwards is there, but he got 3 carries. J.K. Dobbins got 15 for 70 and a touch. Good. 2 for 15 as a receiver. Use that recipe. Don't use it this week against the Steelers, but use that going forward. And then, try to win.
Yeah, this is tough. Now the Ravens are looking at if the Steelers beat them Thanksgiving night, the division will officially be lost. I mean, as it is, it's a low probability, but it just, being eliminated from the division race on Thanksgiving, that's not Ravens. That doesn't sound like the Ravens. See, you watch this team and it feels like it's defined. Lamar Jackson seems just depressed, hesitant, just he said a few weeks ago that he feels like they know the plays that are coming, and it becomes one of those self-fulfilling prophecies at some point. He just doesn't look comfortable. He doesn't look in tune with what's happening around him. He looks hesitant. He looks like he's reacting instead of making the defense react to him. React to me, right? It's sad. I mean, it's just sad because the Lamar Jackson we saw in this offense last year was one of the sights of the season. And this year, and people brought up Greg Roman with Tyrod Taylor and Greg Roman with Colin Kaepernick. And, this is, we gather evidence peeking through the keyholes from outside seats, but when the pattern emerges over 3 teams with quarterbacks where the running ability of the quarterback is leveraged to create things, in the NFL, you still have to counterpunch. You still have to be ready the next year. Like Sean McVay has learned that. Like, no matter how well it works one year, you have to be ready to counterpunch the next year. It doesn't seem like they're ready, or at least Lamar Jackson, like mentally, spiritually, emotionally, it's just things that came easy to this offense are hard for them now. And for fantasy, you're seeing it fall short too. With Marquise Brown, like you said, cue the Chuck D, because it's an emotional thing at this point. Like, well, can you really bring yourself to start Marquise Brown, even if he has another good game, because of how inconsistent this connection has been? And what defenses are doing, it's kind of simple. See, it's like chess, just crowd the middle of the board, just create traffic, interference. I'm not trying to oversimplify things. I'm just saying, take away the comfort zone, make there be a new comfort zone for this offense, and that's definitely not passing to Marquise Brown. It could be J.K. Dobbins. So here we have it. See, rational coaching. J.K. Dobbins getting the majority of the touches, showing his gifts, showing why he was such a coveted prospect, a second-round pick. Will they keep doing it? We'll talk about Indy and Hines. We'll watch Ronald Jones and the Bucs tomorrow night. And Mark Andrews, that worked. So now 2 weeks in a row, if we're hesitant about Andrews, you're not hesitant anymore. And this team goes to Pittsburgh. And, I mean, in this rivalry, this is kind of what are you made of kind of moment. And we're going to find out. I think it really begins and ends with Lamar Jackson's confidence in himself and in the plays and in his teammates.
Late pressure also gets him as well. Like you create that pocket around him and then bring somebody. And that gets to him as well. And I have a feeling that the game against the Steelers will be their Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So Steelers are 10-0. Yeah, go ahead, Blue.
Yeah, it's certainly taking away the 10-0 season from the Steelers.
Yeah.
And it's a game that would make them feel capable again of going to the Super Bowl. Because if you can beat Pittsburgh, at least this year in the AFC, you should feel good about where you're at.
Right. Now, we're not wearing yellow headbands.
No.
we are wearing Steelers beanies because I'm enjoying the Steelers season much more, Bloom, than normal because it's Ben's last one, right? And even when he throws a pick, I'm like, oh, look at Tubby Ben out there throwing picks. Oh, that's nice. Like, just drinking it in, man. Drink it in. And, they're 10-0. They beat Jacksonville. Who gives a damn, right? It's Jacksonville. They're terrible. 27-3 the final score. But I just find myself as a Steelers fan actually being able to be a fan because in years past, it's either, huge disappointment because you have such talent and you're not going anywhere. And we know they're not going anywhere. I don't want to say they're going anywhere. I'm not saying they're going to Tampa, Bloom, but you're building something. You're building momentum. It's Ben's last year, probably, most likely, 99%, whatever. Just enjoy it. Enjoy watching him out there throw for 267, 2 touchdowns, 1 INT. Deontay Johnson going nuts, 12 for 111. Chase Claypool, 459 and a touch. What did the Jaguars give up? 7 touchdowns to tight end so far this year, Bloom?
Yeah.
Make it 8. That's why we talked about Eric Ebron, 4 for 36 and a touch there. Juju, 4 for 19. Oh, James Conner, 13 for 89. So he did a little bit. Benny Snell, if you had him in as a what the heck flex, got a rushing touchdown. That's cool. Okay, so the Steelers win. They win easy. They're 10-0. And very rarely do we get to double digits in this league and have an undefeated team. So however long it lasts, and it might not last past Thanksgiving.
Right.
But however long it lasts, just enjoy.
Yeah, enjoy. Savor it. Savor some things going against somewhat, not expectations, but fears, like playing down to the Jags. Early in the game, there's a little worry about that. Ben Roethlisberger almost threw pick six, almost threw another one at the end of the half that, you could see a little thing here or there that could have been returned for a 100-yard touchdown, maybe. Roethlisberger was doing his best, playing a little loose in this one. But and what else is comforting here, Cease? Cease, if I say Steelers-Jaguars, the first memories your brain conjure up are not happy memories.
No, it's David Garrard.
Right, or it's Leonard Fournette, or it's Blake Bortles. It's Blake Bortles.
Oh
Blake Bortles won a playoff game against the Steelers in Pittsburgh.
Nah.
Yeah, so, the Jags uniform doesn't bring back happy memories. This one was a breeze, though. Juju Smith-Schuster, hamstring, seemed a little uncomfortable. Watch that, because that can make it easier to play Chase Claypool and Deontay Johnson every week. And by the way, so he's talking about enjoy this, savor it. This is the Steelers team of my lifetime that's gone 10-0, and that's always going to be in the books no matter what comes next. But I think embodying that surprise, like you said, Cease, enjoying it, Chase Claypool. What a nice, pleasant surprise this is. Chase Claypool making another dominant touchdown catch. Eric Ebron, and there was one where Roethlisberger was going to Ebron in the red zone, and Ebron falls down, and as you get him up, they're pushing him. The ball just kind of floats over his head, and he's looking around, But then later on, he gets a touchdown. It's just Eric Ebron. I guess even in a year like this, we start to look at him in a positive light, as we're looking at James Conner in a positive light. The annoying thing, of course, that Benny Snell gets the touchdown, and that Snell getting the touchdown may encourage them to keep doing that. And at the goal line, we've seen it a lot this year. And I guess, again, I'm enjoying it, Cease, because, the Ravens game, Thanksgiving night, we all have to look forward to. All eyes on it. LeBron's going to be watching. I can't remember who said that. The whole world, especially in coronavirus 2020 America, it's going to be a captivating game. And then we go back to being neurotic and freaked out again. So I'm going to enjoy this Sunday night.
Yes, very true. To that, we would say double true. Jaguars, Jake Luton, 4 picks. All right, Gardner Minshew, get ready to get back in there. DJ Chark, 4 for 41. It's PPR's 8 points. Close.
Yeah.
It was close a few times. James Robinson's just matchup proof. I mean, God bless James Robinson. 17 for 73, and then 2 for 21. So yeah, you're gonna take that. Nobody else did anything. So that's kind of the story for Jacksonville, and we're waiting for Gardner Minshew to come back.
Yeah, if you were wondering if Jake Luton like had a little something maybe extra, no, I mean maybe he'll hang around as a backup quarterback, and he's shown at least he's not going to get blown away. It's okay to get blown away by the Steelers' defense the way they're playing. So yeah, there just wasn't anything there for Luton. Even their best play early was a James Robinson catch and run. You bring up James Robinson, you just see that Cecil kind of doesn't fit in on a team that's so bad, right? Because he's still bringing it. He's not being brought down by what's going on around him. And they've definitely got a hit there. Minkah Fitzpatrick. I bring up Minkah Fitzpatrick because there's something you recognize when you watch Minkah Fitzpatrick. He had an interception in this game that helped turn it. It's like
Robinson ran him down.
Yeah, I know. Made a good tackle. Fitzpatrick, when you saw that ball deflected, your brain can do these calculations because Fitzpatrick was an entirely different part of the field when the ball is deflected, but he makes a beeline for a deflected ball. Like he just understands with 100% clarity the trajectory of that ball.
It's like Dennis Rodman looking for a rebound.
Yeah, it is something to behold, and he knows it. He knows he's got that eye of the tiger, and that Steelers defense maybe is getting that eye of the tiger just in time. You wonder if this opens the door a little bit maybe for Gardner Minshew to get back out there. I don't know. No. So Jacksonville gets to try to play spoiler against Cleveland next week. There's maybe kind of sort of a chance.
Yeah, I hate talking about this next game because it's Bengals in Washington, and I love Joe Burrow, man. Yeah. Not ashamed to admit it. Joe Burrow's everything you want a number one pick to be, and looking real good out there. And I had even said before on this show and on the airwaves, like I just don't want Cincinnati's offensive line to get him killed.
Yeah, well,
it happened today. And then Joe Burrow tweeting out, like, hey. I'll see you next year. Joe Burrow down, season-ending knee injury. Before he's out, 203 yards, touchdown. Here comes Ryan Finley, throws a pick because he's terrible. Tyler Boyd gets 9 for 85. AJ Green actually did something, 4 for 41 in that touch. Gio Bernard's doing nothing, 9 for 18. Joe Mixon come back. Mixon was tweeting about Joe Burrow. He did not get injured making that tweet, by the way. But anyway, so it's like, get him back. T. Higgins, 3 for 26. Like, just... again, Bloom, I don't want to talk about this game at all because then it makes me depressed that we're not going to get to see Joe Burrow for the rest of the year.
Yes. And maybe I'll go a little bit into like radioactive area when I say this. Because let me get the fantasy stuff out of the way here, right? Which is really simple because what did we see before Joe Burrow went down? A lot of attempts, a lot of volume, so that everybody was going to be a good play. Even AJ Green caught a touchdown. Tyler Boyd was getting all of his. T. Higgins hadn't got his yet, but it comes. Giovanni Bernard even caught 4 passes for like 37, I think. And they were moving the ball. They were moving the ball, but like Randy Bullock missed a field goal. They were moving the ball, and then sees maybe the most complicated play that I've ever seen happened in this game. It was Joe Burrow scrambling at the goal line, hit by Chase Young, and Young's Chase was the word there as he made a beeline. Remember, they were teammates at Ohio State for a little while. And the ball's fumbled into the end zone. Washington recovers it in the end zone, brings it out of the end zone. Cincinnati forces a fumble. The ball goes back into the end zone. Washington recovers it again. They call it a safety, but then they review it and call it. I'm not even going to get. The point is they were moving the ball and stuff like that was happening, Then finally they get a touchdown. They get ahead in this game. And here we go. And Burrow goes down. Now for fantasy, you're with Ryan Finley. The advice is simple. You're not really going to be starting anybody from the Bengals offense from here on out. But this is where I go into radioactive Lance's. Because as soon as it happened, as soon as you watch it happen, I can go all the way back to like week 2 and feel like this was going to happen. Like just watching Bengals games, it was like a cliffhanger where you were just waiting for, Cecil was like, the sword hanging over his head. That was just right. More and more tenuous every week.
It's the horror movie, and they keep building up to the jump.
And this was it. Yep. And I know, and then some folks, I think, and I love it when people like actually give me negative feedback on Twitter because we all need negative feedback sometimes, But because I just, emoted when he went down, I was like, I hate seeing this, but it felt inevitable because of Cincinnati. And I don't know what the answer is because
why would they give you negative feedback about that?
Oh, I don't know, because it's too soon, or just it's like not.
Because they're dumb.
I don't know. It's fine. It's fine. I welcome all messages through people, and then sometimes we'll go.
Yeah, I don't have a thought when you tweet at me.
That's true. That's true.
If you tweet me dumb stuff, then I'll just mute you anyway. But don't get me started on social networking, Bloom. Sorry.
Right.
Sorry.
No. So, I mean, I don't know what the answer was, right? Like, move the pocket around, roll him out more, like, do more max protect or something. I don't know. I don't know that I could have done any better or not left him with this offensive line out. And it isn't for a lack of making picks, Cease, because remember, they took Away and Fisher in back-to-back rounds like 4 or 5 years ago when they let Whitworth walk, but they had a plan. They took Billy Price in the first round. They took Jonah Williams in the first round. Williams gets hurt. Price isn't any good. So it isn't like they haven't tried to build an offensive line. It just hasn't worked. The picks haven't worked. And they threw some money at least at the defense. They didn't throw money at the offensive line. So I'm not necessarily even pointing the finger at Cincinnati when I say this. I just feel like this recipe, and the other point is just Joe Burrow and his fight, that he's just not going to back down from anything, even though his body, he's not built like Josh Allen. Like he has to back down sometimes, and you could just see it in these games that he wasn't. He didn't have that self-preservation, that sense that quarterbacks have sometimes when they'll just, Tom Brady's the best at it, just sit down. Peyton was good at it too. Sometimes you just give up in a play. You're just like, nothing good's going to happen if I keep trying to make something happen, so I'm just going to sit down right now. Joe Burrow has none of that in this game. So, yeah, this was intense. I mean, and I feel really bad for the Bengals fans because Burrow represented hope. Burrow represented the future in a different direction for this franchise, and he still does. But you just don't want to see him. You don't want to see the David Carr, big brother, career arc. You don't want to see, and we're watching this with Sam Darnold right now. And we'll see. They're playing the Giants next week, so there's drama for you. And again, Washington, part of the NFC East drama on Thanksgiving.
Washington gets the win. Alex Smith does. 166, 1 touchdown, 1 INT to Steven Sims, not Cam Sims. I feel like we always got to make that differentiation. Right. Initiation? What? McLovin, 5 for 84. Hey, you're going to take that. That's, that's what you get. Antonio Gibson, you get goodness. 16 for 94 and a rushing touchdown. Antonio Gibson also had a catch for 10 yards. J.D. McKissick, 3 for 26 as a receiver. That was shocking. As shocking as his 6 for 43 on the ground. So if you had him in as a flex, like it's okay. It would have been better with more catches. But anyway, so Washington gets the win. Again, Bloom, I'm grumpy talking about this game because of the Burrow injury.
Again, it's NFC East, absurd NFC East with their third win of the season. In Week 11, Washington moves into half game from first place. Going into a matchup with a team tied with them in the standings in second place, Dallas Cowboys on Thanksgiving. Stirring story. Speaking of good stories, there's the Alex Smith story, right? So, the universe take it away. Universe give it a little bbit. Like Alex Smith can start a playoff game in 20. That's not something that was on anyone's 2020 go card. For 20. Anyway, it was a low-key game for Alex Smith because they led, or because the defense, again, bring up Chase Young, Ryan Kerrigan had a defensive line that we were looking forward to watching earlier this year, going into the season, making some things happen there. So that's why I wasn't there for McKissick, or really anybody in the passing game, except for Terry McLaurin. His floor games are still fine. And then one Antonio Gibson, who looks great. And as this team has more arrows pointing up, you have to like what he can do. Matt Waldman wrote a great gut check about him. Basically, I think the best is yet to come for him. And here's where we're at, right? Here's what I'm going to tee up for you. Washington and Dallas are basically like teeter-tottering between a playoff berth in a home playoff game or like a top 5 pick. What do you root? I mean, this is unprecedented. What do you root for as a fan at this point?
Right.
For the Washington football team.
By the way, speaking of that, Bloom, and then I got to let this go because it's bad.
Uh-huh.
Who was the Washington player that after the Burrow hit and Burrow's writhing in pain, and there was a Washington player sitting next to him? He was upset that he hurt him.
Yeah.
It shows you the reverence that Burrow has created around the league. I mean, guys love him, even his opponents love him.
Yeah, ultimate competitor.
Damn it! All right, Panthers 20, Lions 0.
Not ultimate competitors.
Brighten your mood. Matt Patricia. Hey, everybody. Watch him give him an extension.
Right.
You know what? He just needs 5 more years. Matthew Stafford, 178. No touchdowns, no INTs. TJ Hawkinson, 4 for 68. That's enough if you started him. Marvin Jones Jr., 4 for 51. No DeAndre Swift in this one. So here comes Adrian Peterson for 18 yards. Here comes Kerryon Johnson for 17 yards. Also 2 for 21 as a receiver. You're thinking, I got a sneaky Quintus Cephas play. No. Like Marvin Hall, no. Like this is coverage is pretty barren here on the Detroit side of things.
Again, Cecil, gets you into how messed up it is to be a fan of one of these teams, because going into this game, you're actually looking at this as a winnable game for the Lions. Remember, Teddy Bridgewater likely out going into it. And they played Houston on Thanksgiving. And next thing you know, you're 6-5. You path to the playoffs, which, again, if you even say playoffs and Lions and Patricia, like that's saving his job. So you're rooting for them to collapse. Well, if you're rooting for them to collapse, you got it. You got it. This is the kind of game that should get a coach fired. Like maybe it won't get him fired this week because teams, ownership, the way they are about firing in the season or something like that. But this was a terrible, no good, horrible effort, all facets of the game for the Lions. Getting shut out in the NFL is an ignoble thing, especially you're getting shut out by the Panthers. Couldn't run on the Panthers. Hawkinson got a little banged up, had the biggest play of the day. So like you said, it was okay. It was enough. Matt Prater. This is what it comes down to, Cease. I don't know what it was, like a 50-some yarder. It wasn't necessarily an easy field goal. Matt Prater misses it. It's the classic, like, let's just get a field goal so at least we're not shut out. And they can't even do that. They can't even get the 3. That is what kind of day it was. That is what kind of team they are. That is where they are with Matt Patricia. If there could not be a more resounding message to the ownership that this team is going nowhere with this blueprint, this coach. It's sad, Cease, because I think, not that it wasn't official a while ago, but they squandered Matthew Stafford. I mean, Matthew Stafford, maybe he isn't going to go down as one of the great quarterbacks of his era, but we didn't get to see what he could do with some kind of adequate support around him in his prime. And we get to watch this Thanksgiving. It's good because you're still cooking stuff, getting everything ready. Obviously, for smaller groups. I hope smaller groups. I don't know. Hey, it's America, freedom, I guess. My point is, the Lions game can be on in the background. You can get everything done on Thanksgiving.
Same as it ever was.
Yeah.
Same as it ever was, because happened with Barry, happened with Calvin, happened with Matthew. That's just what they do. My grandmother would say that's just their way. PJ Walker, it's his way to go for 258, a touchdown and 2 INTs in this one. Curtis Samuel, 8 for 70 and the touchdown. DJ Moore, 7 for 127, also threw a pass. Didn't connect to PJ Walker, but that was cool. Robbie Anderson, 7 for 46, so PPR, it's enough. Mike Davis, 19 for 64 and a touch. Thank you. Also 2 for 15 as a receiver. Not much else from anyone else here, but Walker in his start gets the win.
Yeah, see, as we like to say, he made himself some money today. I mean, he showed he can be a viable starting quarterback on an NFL field, even against the Lions.
Lions.
And we'll talk a little more about the idea of, like, well, does it matter who you do it against? Or, in this case, at least Walker didn't look out of place. He didn't look out of place as an NFL starting quarterback. And in fact, dare I say, maybe he has a little more to work with in terms of downfield arm than Teddy. Mobile. He wasn't relying on his running ability for either his fantasy or his value to the offense. He was making some plays happen. Go into this one, I think the rational answer was bench your Panthers, but Robbie Anderson still caught 7 balls. DJ Moore still made it happen. Curtis Samuel looks great. He had a nice sprawling touchdown catch. Even Mike Davis got a touchdown. So if you were down on the Panthers offense going into this one, you're wrong, which part of that could be it's just the Lions, although it's just the Vikings next week. We'll talk about what they did against Dallas today. And you just saw Walker look competent, except when he got to the end zone. He threw 2 of the worst. He was like, if I was out there, just throw to somebody. Oh, someone from the other team. Crap. Those were the kind of interceptions he had down in the red zone. So it was a little bit frustrating the way that Walker undercut the very unexpectedly good performance as a passer, but still, I think he did a lot for himself. Rodney Smith was backup, by the way, the rookie. Teddy was right through lead at game time, so I think we may see Teddy against his old Minnesota team. So that would be fitting. It's for this offense, for Walker, and getting back in a positive direction for this team. The Carolina Panthers aren't going to have some sort of surprise playoff run, but they are going to be a team that plays with some pride and shows what they can do every week, unlike the Lions. We'll see what they do against the Vikings.
Yeah, it's not a sick brag, bro, or weird flex, but okay, Bloom, which I told my girls, my teenage girls, they were like, that was when Vine was around in like 2014. I said, well, what do you say? What do you say? And you're like, that's capping. And I'm like, what? I'm like, capping is lying.
Is that good or bad?
So
yeah.
if you say I'm not capping, you're not lying. Mm-hmm. And if you're capping, you capping, you're lying. Yeah, so I don't know. My sick brag, bro.
Yeah.
We'll just talk like old men because, well.
Yeah, that's what we are.
My buddy James Palmer down in New Orleans. Love James Palmer. He got me a video of Sean Payton before this Saints-Falcons game. Would you like to see it, Bloom?
Oh, sure.
There you go. For our man Diego. God, if you're listening, help! Yeah, because it was Taysom Hill time, and Saints and Falcons look pretty good, 24-9. Again, consider the opponent. It's the Falcons, but... Yeah. Matt Ryan, let's start with there. A couple of picks, 232 through the air. Calvin Ridley, 5 for 90. Julio Jones really banged up. You could tell with that hammy. 2 for 39. He was out. He came back in, caught a pass, went back out. Russell Gage, 7 for 58. Ridley back, by the way, in action. Need to bring that up, of course. Mm-hmm. Todd Gurley doesn't get a touchdown, doesn't get hardly anything. 26 yards on the ground, 3 yards as a receiver. And Hayden Hurst got goose egg. So there's that. And the Falcons fall in this rivalry game. Let's hurry up with this so we can talk about Taysom Hill.
Yeah. A reassuring game for the Saints. Not a reassuring game for Atlanta, as they were actually playing pretty well since Raheem Morris took over. It was just the Saints defense. Just like last year, Breeze goes down, Saints defense, we got this. The front line, my oh my. And you know Cam Jordan, but you need to know Trey Hendrickson. You need to know David Onyemata. These guys, it's Matt Ryan. So you know Matt Ryan's going to struggle against pressure, and pressure there was. They got some field goals, and that was basically it. Settled for field goals, nickel and dime the defense, mostly because of the pressure, but also because Julio Jones was hurt. Julio Jones catches a pass early. You see him working on the hamstring, doesn't come back in. They said he was cleared to return around halftime. Didn't return until the fourth quarter, and see, this is kind of sad. It's sad in a different way than the Joe Burrow thing is, but it's still sad because you see Julio Jones go back out there. I think it was a fourth down. It was either a third down or a fourth down, and he makes this great sprawling catch and run for like a 25-yard gain to like keep this desperation drive going, and he hobbles off the field again. And again, I'm not bringing this up in the classic Saints fan taunting way, but you think of 28-3, and you think of that high water mark of the Ryan, Julio, Falcons, and you see that as they try to do what they can now, it's just smoke's coming out of the hood of this whole, like, when do they blow it up? They blow it up next year? Do they blow it up the year after that? They're going to blow it up. You know, we're watching the post-death scene, basically, of the Falcons. Of course, Saints fans wouldn't have it any other way. Ridley did okay. Gage did okay. Not Hurst. Remember, when Julio Jones is out, Hayden Hurst just disappears. Of course, Todd Gurley also disappeared. And Las Vegas will be facing the Falcons next.
Saints side, and Taysom Hill out there running around making plays. Couple of rushing touchdowns, 10 for 51 and 2. And then no passing touchdowns, but very efficient. 18 for 23, no touchdowns, no INTs, was sacked 3 times. So we'd take sacks, Bloom. Mm-hmm. He would regularly distribute the ball fairly quickly, right? Now, he could make plays with his legs, and they clearly told him, like, if you don't see it like that, just run. And that's what he did. Alvin Kamara then got 45 yards and a touchdown on the day on the ground there for Kamara. Was targeted as once, no catches. Michael Thomas gets 9 for 104. Manuel Sanders gets 4 for 66. Latavius Murray, 12 for 49, and then 2 for 36 as a receiver. Jared Cook, 1 for 6. Oh, but it's Taysom Hill, man. It's his show. What did you think? Probably going to lose his tight end eligibility next week against the Broncos. Message. But Taysom Hill week looked pretty good in the debut.
Yeah, and since you mentioned the Broncos right off the bat, I will say Vic Fangio could expose a lot more of what might go wrong about Taysom Hill as a quarterback than Atlanta did. However, I'm going to push back for the second time in the show, Cease. Or not push back, because I was actually trying to be gentle with the Burrow thing. But I'm sorry if you laughed at Taysom Hill, the starting quarterback, if you thought, how could they be not going with Jameis Winston? He's an actual quarterback. If you laughed at that, you took the L today because Hill was fine. He was fine. Doesn't mean he's going to be a great quarterback for the rest of his career. Doesn't mean that he's even going to have as long in the spotlight as Tim Tebow had before he fades away. But he looked fine. The point is, the Falcons' defense was the punchline, not Hill, right? When I said, hey, if you thought Taysom Hill was going to puke all over himself and embarrass Sean Payton, you were wrong. And they said, what was the Falcons' defense? Exactly. The Falcons' defense is lower than Taysom Hill, the quarterback, in the universe of things to laugh at. All right? That's what we established in this game. Taysom Hill, it almost looked like Sean Payton was trying to make a point of saying, look, he can pass. Calling plays to say, look, he can pass. And you had Michael Thomas drop on this one that could have been a big gain. And he looked under control. He looked like he had a calm process. He looked like he had clarity when he was reading the field. His throwing motion, his mechanics all looked natural and fluid. It didn't look clunky or otherwise like unnatural. I think that even especially early in the game, like you said, he took some sacks, took him a little while to get warmed up, had a better second half. But with the threat he offers to run, especially in the red zone, we know it's one thing to move the ball between the 20s. It's another thing to finish drives. He did it twice with his legs in this game. And the more he puts down credible passing film, the more that it will be there for him. So I think it's exciting. It's exciting to see what Hill can do. Maybe not as exciting if you had Alvin Kamara because he wasn't as involved as a receiver. That's just one of those moving parts. Drew Brees is at the center of it. By the way, 11 broken ribs. How do you break 11 ribs, Cease?
Oh, yeah. Getting a motorcycle wreck?
I got like rolling, I don't know. So, but the idea is hold down the fort. Taysom Hill in the defense can hold down the fort. Michael Thomas had a good game and make it simple, right? I mean, it's almost like having to be more resourceful with your quarterback makes you do the right thing. Like, why wouldn't half of the targets be Michael Thomas targets? Like in a typical game. So you're actually, in some ways, liking this if you have Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. There was a long touchdown here. The first one was, as Scott Hansen called it, an arm punt that Sanders just parked under. The second one was good enough that it was a legit long touchdown bomb overturned by a holding penalty. But it was there for Emmanuel Sanders. So maybe we're not backing away from him. Probably everybody else, Jared Cook, etc. And like we said, Cease, you get to cover them going to Denver. Denver, a little pep in their step. So, not a given.
Not a given, although Taysom Hill will be the best quarterback on the field next week because Dolphins and Broncos are next game up, and the Broncos get that win 20-13. Bloom, do you know that Drew Lock has only beaten 2 winning teams in his pro career? Mm-hmm. Last year, he beat the Texans. This year, he beat the Dolphins. That's it. So beating a winning team just doesn't happen for this team, and especially under Vic Fangio. So it doesn't matter if Lock's in or not. Like, you can beat the Jets. Okay, fine. The Jets are terrible. You can beat the Patriots as they're just kind of confused about who they want to be. You can beat the Chargers because they choke. Can you beat a real team? Well, you did that today. So let's talk about this. 20-13, the final score. Tua Tagovailoa sacked 6 times. Was pulled from the game probably because of injury. I haven't seen the quotes. We started recording Bloom. But he was banged up. He was just bent over all sorts of ways and, kind of landed on and twisted around and all these sorts of things. So it wasn't working. He had 83 yards passing through 3 quarters. 1 touchdown, which came off of a Drew Lock interception. So it was easy to get it to Devontae Parker, 6 for 61 and a touch. Could have had 2 touchdowns, but Ryan Fitzpatrick comes in, throws a pick in the end zone to seal this one to Justin Simmons as he was going after Parker in this one. Mike Gesicki, 4 for 43. Broncos can't stop the run. Well, Salvin Ahmed, 12 for 43. Matt Breida was back 2 for 4 on the ground. Ahmed also had 5 for 31 as a receiver. Antonio Callaway was out there. Jakeem Grant didn't do anything. So it was a very interesting day. When the Dolphins made the switch to Fitzpatrick, it was probably too late because he started moving the ball and just came short. I mean, they're driving to tie the thing, and if they go for 2 to win the thing, with time expiring, he throws a pick to Justin Simmons. So there you have it. Let me know about Tua again. I didn't see the post-game quotes, but it looks like he was banged up. Dolphins make that change. They make a bit of a comeback, but now that 5-game winning streak ends in the Mile High City.
Yeah, I think that's the big narrative question coming out of this game. Cease is it going to be chalked up to being an injury? Was it an injury? Even if they say it was an injury, who starts next week? But I mean, look, if you go to Denver, and this isn't disrespect to Denver, but if you go to Denver and you can't just decisively beat them the way that you did to the Chargers, then what's really in it for this team this year? Like, where does it all end? And it's probably better to keep starting Tagovailoa. Like, just working on it. And what you see when you watch, because the defense was playing so well, it didn't matter as much, is he just has kind of a limited zone of influence on the field at this point. You know, he's not going to threaten a lot as a runner in the deep passing game. It probably hurts that Preston Williams is out also, but you just saw more of the passing game come alive as soon as Ryan Fitzpatrick came out there. So obviously for fantasy, if we do hear that it's Ryan Fitzpatrick next week against the Jets, so don't count Miami out yet. You know, they lose this one that you maybe had penciled in as a W, but they weren't able to do it in this one, as you said, Cecil, I think because they didn't make the move to Fitzpatrick early enough. Ahmed had a good game, an okay game. A lot of the running backs, if there was one trend this week, it was all those running backs that didn't really have much of a pedigree or necessarily a great situation or a great matchup. Almost none of them produced big games. You got 10 or 12 points out of your running back too. You're probably pretty happy by that. Ahmed gave you that in a PPR league. Parker had a nice touchdown on this one, started to come alive. Gesicki starting to come alive. And you really see that Fitzpatrick knows that Gesicki can sometimes look like a player that can be inconsequential despite how physically gifted he is. But then Fitzpatrick knows how to put that ball up where Gesicki's vertical and his natural fluid athleticism gets into play. And it just looks natural for Gesicki. So again, I mean, there's things that can be harvested in this pass offense if Fitzpatrick is out there that Tua can't. But where's this team headed? Spreading it, you saw Tua spreading it around to no avail, like 7-8 yard catches off Fitzpatrick stretching it out. So we'll see against the Jets. We know that whoever is a quarterback should have an easier time of it because the Broncos had a great spirited effort on defense and on offense. Locke didn't lose it.
Yeah, he didn't lose it. Melvin Gordon almost did. Oh, Melvin Gordon. Well, Drew Lock went out there, 18 of 30, 270 yards, no touchdowns, one INT, the INT early. And he came back like that. We have to have a discussion on swagger versus confidence. Like there's real confidence and then there's swagger. Like, look at me, guys, I'm cool. And then there's real confidence. Locke seemed to play with real confidence after that pick and not the theatrics. And again, I could give a damn about his dancing. It's just, are you making plays under pressure? And early on in this contest, he was less than a 50% passer. He came out in the second half. He was much more efficient, and that's why he finishes 18 of 30. Could have been much worse than that. Could have been like 13 of 35 or whatever. Melvin Gordon, who I mentioned, has those 2 rushing touchdowns, almost had 3, but coughed it up at the goal line because, well, he's Melvin Gordon. Yeah. So he had 15 for 84 and 2 rushing touchdowns. Philip Lindsay, and it's pretty bad when Pat Shurmur starts his press conference. He's like, I had a feeling you would ask me about Philip Lindsay.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, because you give him 4 carries, dolt. Like, what are you doing? Why would you do that? This time, 16 for 82. No touchdowns there for Philip Lindsay. And, of course, no targets because they don't think he can catch. So, and by the way, no targets for Melvin Gordon either. But Tim Patrick, 5 for 119. Most of that at the end as Drew Lock's just trying to run out the clock. They have, 4 seconds left or whatever. And he just drops back and he throws it deep. Well, Patrick ran under it. So, okay, so you got that garbage play, but hey, points are points. Noah Fant, such a warrior, 4 for 55. He's not himself at all. He's hurt, but he's out there. He's playing. Jerry Jeudy, 3 for 37. Still see a disconnect. He led the team in targets with 8, tied with Patrick. The KJ Hamler breakout, not quite there, Bloom, 4 for 35, but you see the intent to get him involved. So that's very, very good. It's good for your dynasty stock anyway. So, at the end of the day, you go for who, for what? What, would have been better off if you lost this game? Right. Better off for your draft position? Did you really learn anything about Locke? He was very safe with the ball. Yeah. The pick notwithstanding. And the pick just comes as I was texting with some people around the league. I'll tell you off air who it is. And I was like, he'd make a great bird dog. Like, man alive, you take Drew Lock hunting, he'd be like, it's over there. He's right there. I see him. He's over there. So yeah, he'd make a great bird dog. That doesn't make for great quarterback play. Yeah. Anyway, so what did we learn today, Bloom? I'm writing about this right now.
Okay.
And I'm like, I mean, it's a win. It's a quality team that you beat enough, so it's not the Chargers choking or whatever, but it's like, did you really advance things today with Drew Lock specifically? Because that's all this season matters. This season only matters to determine what happens with Drew Lock. And after this game, you go, I don't know. He was supposed to look like this already.
Right. Yeah, what did you learn? I mean, Drew Lock can manage a win whenever the defense is smothering and the running game is good. And like you said, Phil Bensley looked great. Gordon actually looked okay, and he finished those 2 drives and then fumbled at the one to give Miami a chance. You can't script that any better. That's kind of Melvin Gordon's career. Some excellence, but something always, a flaw that keeps you from putting him in the category with the guys above him. When you think back to this era of running backs, again, this coaching staff is never going to play Lindsey significantly more than Gordon. It just seems like it's never going to happen. Not that Lindsey may not deserve that, as Cecil keeps reminding us. When Lindsey's on another team, let's see what happens.
The Chiefs.
Yeah, that'd be great. Spreading it around, like you said, Patrick stands out because of the desperation. I think 61-yarder. Otherwise, spreading it around, while it worked for Locke and he didn't make any big mistakes, at least after the first quarter, it was the defense, not the offense, not the pass offense that carried them. Again, New Orleans, we'll learn a little more, probably not like what we learned. We'll learn a little more about Drew Lock against that pass rush, against that secondary. It won't be as easy.
Will not be as easy. Bloom, I'm writing about it this week, but you hear about it first right here on the Audible.
Okay.
Last week, I talked to 3 people that are around 3 different teams. Around the building is what I like to say. All of them love Philip Lindsay and can't figure out. So I'm like, wait a second. Other teams love Philip Lindsay more than the Broncos. Okay.
They don't deserve him.
So look for it at 1043thefan.com this week. Look for our next game up, as it is a Broncos show, but it is a Charger show, I guess. 34-28, the final score over the Jets. And Joe Flacco loves him some Brashad Perriman. You see the response from the veteran there. And, we're seeing it around the league, Bloom, like, hey, sometimes it just takes some time for those guys. And Brashad Perriman, with injuries, we know. The injuries, ravaged his career. The talent's still there. Now, it's 2 for 54 and a touch, so I'm not going to go overboard. 4 targets, by the way. But you see that connection with Flacco, 205 and 2 touchdowns on the day, also a pick. Denzel Mims, love him, 3 for 71. Tip of the iceberg, ladies and gentlemen. Chris Herndon actually did something, 2 for 32 and a touch. Oh, quieter with Crowder? I don't know, 1 for 16 in this one. Frank Gore taking lots of punishment. It's kind of what he does. 61 yards on the ground, 1 rushing touchdown, a couple of catches, 10 yards. LaMichael Pirine, they're going to use him more. Use him enough to get a touchdown, I guess, if you had him in as a what-the-heck flex, 8 for 33 and a touch there. So Jets fall short. They fought valiantly, though, in the second half, as they were down big in halftime. What was that, 24-6? So, 34-28 final score. Jets fight a little bit, garbage time, whatever. But this is who they're going to be, because we know Sam Darnold's not going to be back.
Yeah, and this is a team that, if they accomplish their objectives, will not win a game this year and pick number 1. Flacco, like you said, reviving. Perryman. Mims had a pretty crazy concentration catch on a ball that popped around a little bit downfield. Crowder just not matching Joe Flacco's style. You did see LaMichael Pirine get more work early in this game, get the touchdown, left with an ankle injury. Hence Gore's first touchdown of the season. As you said, that you saw Chris Herndon make a play. Chris Herndon made a play. And confetti. And that was basically it. For the Chargers wanted to make it a game. The Chargers wanted to say, "Can we figure out a new way to lose?" No, you're the Jets. Even your negative mojo it puts ours to shame. And again, they get to face Miami next week, just to end the season.
I wonder when the Jets get Trevor Lawrence and they fire Adam Gase. It'll be firing Adam Gase first, but when they get Trevor Lawrence, if Gase, he'll look with pride like, I did that.
Yeah,
they got Trevor Lawrence because of me. So there you go. Chargers side of things. Justin Herbert, he's the real deal. I mean, my God, he's so much fun to watch, and he's just a robot out there. But he's a robot that's technically sound. We'll tell you, you tell him what to do, and he'll do it. Even if he's taking shots, like he doesn't care. Again, kind of young Joe Flacco. It's interesting that both these two are playing against each other, because like he's taking shots, he's getting hits, he's looking downfield, staring down the barrel, and just firing away. 366, 3 touchdowns on this one. Keenan Allen, 16 for 145 and a touch. Mike Williams, 4 for 72 and a touch. Hunter Henry, 4 for 48 and a touch. So if you started your Chargers, you're pretty happy. Kalen Balaj, 16 for 44. Oh, could have been more, but 7 for 27. So in PPR leagues, I mean, come on. It's Kalen Balaj, and don't get greedy. So the Chargers win. And man, Bloom, I'll just say it's fun watching Justin Herbert on a weekly basis.
It is. That along with Chase Poole are the two situations where we just could have never expected. And with Herbert, it's a cornucopia that just keeps giving and giving and giving because of how much every week he adds new chapters. And for fantasy, what stood out here is this is kind of what we envisioned at its best whenever he started to break out and is now on this incredible run for a rookie quarterback of multiple touchdown pass games against a defense like the Jets. So yes, Keenan Allen was a week winner, but that doesn't mean that Mike Williams wasn't also good for tight end. Hey, 448 touchdown. Hunter Henry, that's great. That's a great tight end score in the year 2020. Not much, like you said there, for the running game. Balaj, another revenge game against Adam Gase and the Jets, but he did get those receptions. We're going to keep targeting the Jets defense. Miami next week, again, they're going to get well against them. And the Chargers, entertaining show, shuffles off to Buffalo next week.
That's an entertaining show between two young quarterbacks people love to watch. Packers and Colts in overtime, and it's the Colts charging back in this one. Phillip Rivers, 34-31, the final score. Let's talk about the Packers side first. Aaron Rodgers, 311 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 INT, and you're thinking early on, 28-14 at half. And you're like, oh, yeah, for sure. They got this. Devontae Adams, 7 for 106 and a touch. Robert Tonyan, 5 for 44 and a touch. Jamal Williams gets a receiving touchdown, also 12 yards on the ground. Aaron Jones, 10 for 41 and 1 rushing touchdown, 4 for 30 as a receiver. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, 3 for 55. Alan Lazard was back out there, and he is huge, but 2 for 18, kind of mixed them in, what have you. So this is a weird one, Bloom, because they get up so big, and you're like, oh, yeah, no problem. Here they go. They're rolling. And the Colts charge back.
This one, much like Baltimore and Tennessee, lived up to the billing. And it was a game that had games within the game. Again, typified in the first half by Aaron Rodgers. Just doing this Aaron Rodgers thing. Looking like prime Aaron Rodgers. Then in the second half, you saw Darius Leonard. You saw the Colts defense put more of their stamp on the game and gave them an opening along with the offense to end up winning this one. Aaron Jones was just okay as a runner, so the Colts run defense showing up here. And you saw Jamal Williams getting the touchdown reception, actually not Aaron Jones. Jones got a rushing touchdown, so not as big of a day for them. You did see Robert Tonyan. You did see Devontae Adams. You did see a big reception to Marquez Valdez-Scantling to help set up the field goal that sent the game to overtime. But when it came right down to it, this Green Bay offense could not make plays when they needed to. And you would think that with the first half they had, I guess we can talk about halftime adjustments. I think we can also just talk about Green Bay as a team and where their center is, because I think you did see them let up. And you saw, interestingly, contrasting these two personalities, you saw the Phillip Rivers team. And Rivers was playing banged up in this one. But you saw the Phillip Rivers team overcome themselves. Isn't that Phillip Rivers, right? Overcome themselves to make enough plays to get a big, big win.
Yep. Phillip Rivers out there. Jacoby Brissett was on the field for a little bit.
Yeah.
Rivers goes 288, 3 touchdowns, 1 INT. Michael Pittman Jr., we talked about him on the waiver wire show. If he's still out there, get him. 3 for 66 and a touch. Trey Burton is that tight end by committee. Woo! Because Jack Doyle played, and of course Mo Alley Cox is out there, and Doyle himself has a touchdown. Trey Burton has a touchdown, and Mo Alley Cox has 2 for 16. Thanks. Zach Pascal, 3 for 54. T.Y. Hilton, 3 for 36. Nyheim Hines and the usage, just it's awful, so inconsistent. 3 for 31 as a receiver. Is it a Jordan Wilkins day or Jonathan Taylor day or Nyheim Hines day? Well, Jonathan Taylor had 22 for 90 in this one, so there's that. But and 4 for 24 as a receiver, by the way. But the Colts get the win, so hell, it worked.
It did. And there's a lot of different ways we could look at this for fantasy. But I think that what first I want to acknowledge is for the Colts to talk about a quality win that really forced them out of their comfort zone as a team against Green Bay in an AFC bracket that's still tight. Okay, Miami lost in this one, but Tennessee, who is their rival, in the division, who they're playing next week, came back and won in overtime. So knowing that, to come up with this performance, falling down at half, and defense not really having answers for Aaron Rodgers and company, was a terrific performance. And it was a good performance for Rivers. And really, he made enough plays in the second half for them to just keep running the ball, because that's when Jonathan Taylor comes on. And they kept getting holding penalties. It was bizarre, Cease. Every Sunday, you will see stuff you never saw before. I have never seen a team trying to run out the clock get holding penalties on, I think, 3 plays in a row. It was just ridiculous. But they still were able to hold the Packers to a field goal instead of the Packers scoring a touchdown in the end of regulation. Then the defense forces a turnover. Rodrigo Blankenship does the rest. So Jonathan Taylor may be gaining some trust against that Tennessee run defense. Let J.K. Dobbins run and let Nyheim Hines run 2 weeks ago. Didn't see much Nyheim Hines. Well, you did see Nyheim Hines score a touchdown here that was called back by penalty. Jonathan Taylor also had a touchdown. See a theme here? Called back by penalty. So it was there. I mean, you might have been happy, and you were pretty happy playing Taylor anyway. Taylor looked pretty good in this one. So he's gaining some trust, and Hines at least had a 2-point conversion, had a big reception that helped them be poised to run out the clock, but they, again, kept committing penalties. And otherwise in the passing game, you don't think value when you think Colts passing game, but Michael Pittman on these crossing routes just ran away from everybody. It's looking good on the hoof, and that route, that combination, the timing there is just something to behold. Again, they ripped up Tennessee with that 2 weeks ago. We'll see if they can do anything about that. You mentioned Mo Alley Cox had a fumble in this one. And Burton gets a touchdown. Doyle gets a touchdown. Hey, if Kiki Cutie scored a touchdown, I guess I shouldn't be too upset about Mo Alley Cox getting shut out. Once again, if you haven't heard me mention it for like the 8th time, Tennessee, Indianapolis, rematch next week.
Go time. Final game we're going to talk about in the Week 11 recap is Cowboys and Vikings, 31-28, the final score. And this one, I thought we were going overtime, honestly. Andy Dalton, 203 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 INT. CeeDee Lamb, 4 for 34 and a touch. By the way, Harrison Smith with a welcome to the NFL moment for CeeDee Lamb. Oh, that hurt me just to watch. Dalton Schultz, 4 for 25 and a touch. Zeke gets 2 for 11 and a touch as a receiver, also 21 for 103 in this one. No rushing touchdown, but Tony Pollard gets a rushing touchdown. So if you had him in as a what the heck flex, 5 for 60 and a touch, big 42-yarder. Amari Cooper, 6 for 81. Michael Gallup, only 2 for 29. So outside of Gallup, but you look at your normal assets, Zeke, Cooper, CD, and you go, oh, with Dalton back, they were, a little bit more oomph for your fantasy team this week.
Incredible offense. Now, it was Minnesota, but Minnesota made Nick Foles look bad, so at least they're good enough to make Nick Foles look bad. I don't know how to translate that to the Andy Dalton scale, but Andy Dalton looked competent. The offense looked competent. As we start to think about this, we're setting our lineups, whether it be against Minnesota, it's Carolina next week, by the way, or Alice going up to Washington. Remember what Washington's defensive line did to their offensive line, so that's something to think about. But Dalton made the offense look better. It was reasonable fantasy factor. Ezekiel Elliott really was the hamstring affecting him going into the bye because he looked like prime Ezekiel Elliott in this one. And again, we're not thinking about the offensive line. We're thinking about how Elliott looked and Tony Pollard continuing to make a case to be more integrated into this offense. Still his best football yet to come. Also, Amari Cooper making some key catches. CeeDee Lamb's touchdown was something truly that was incomprehensible. He's going backwards and rotates on, I guess you would call it sees the Z-axis, He's turning his body as he's falling away. It was just one of the best catches you'll see. Maybe not even the best catch in the game, though. So Dallas, Washington, we usually wouldn't say a battle of 3 and 7 teams is interesting, but the winning team, unless Philadelphia can beat Seattle, will be a first place team. Let's maybe see another tie because sometimes no one deserves to win.
Oh boy, Viking side of things. And Dalvin Cook was out there battling, even came off the field after a big hit one time. You're like, oh, hey, you get all nervous, right? Like, please, Dalvin Cook, please don't leave us. 27 for 115 and a touch on the ground. 5 for 45 as a receiver. He's Dalvin Cook. Adam Thielen, monster day, 8 for 123 and 2 touchdowns. Justin Jefferson, 3 for 86 and a touchdown. Kyle Rudolph, 3 for 28. Irv Smith, 2 for 23. And then Kirk Cousins, 314, 3 touchdowns on the day, out there slinging it, but falling short on Sunday.
Yeah, this was actually a game that was entertaining. A back and forth game, lots of lead changes, players rising to the occasion. And was Dallas getting that drive to make it 31-28. And as you said, Cecil, you thought it's going to be a tie or maybe even Minnesota can win because Kirk Cousins was looking good. Put Kirk Cousins against a bad defense or a flawed defense that the plays will work as drawn up. And now we're no longer talking about, Stephon Diggs, where's the other? No, Justin Jefferson's the guy. Except he had the drop on 2nd and 6, I think it was. And, okay, you got 2 more chances. That drop really slowed down the offense, and they weren't able to get it going and lost on downs on that last drive. Before that happened, you see Dalvin Cook. Oh, man. He just takes so much punishment. You do wish that maybe some veteran back would sit down with him and talk about how to take a little less punishment because he just slams himself up the field. And it really sacrifices his body for his team, and it worked. And it was working consistently in this. It was also working for Adam Thielen, who, some weeks Adam Thielen looks like a year or 2 from now we're going to really see his skills start to erode. We're going to say, well, that was it. It was like where Julian Edelman is now. It was beautiful while it was there, but then he goes out and has a game like this where you see his ability to separate in the red zone, and you see this one-handed touchdown catch, one of the best catches of his career, and otherwise just, again, against an inferior defense, Minnesota's offense looking good. And you're looking at this team as the Lions are falling. Maybe they're the surprise story in the winter that can come on and get these wins, maybe pull to 5-5 in this game. But their inability to get something going on offense let them down in this one. And they face a reason that you were thinking about, maybe this could get positive, is facing Carolina next week. Still going to be an interesting game. Again, the Teddy Bowl there as Teddy comes back to Minnesota. Just put it in the book, Cease. Another week of all kinds of stuff we never saw before, stuff that surprised us, stuff that made us laugh, stuff that made us cry. Just another Sunday.
Sounds about right. You never let us down as our audience out there. We certainly appreciate each and every one of you for listening, for participating, for interacting on social networking, even when I'm a grumpy old man.
You caping? By the way, you're not caping. Is it caping or capping?
Capping. You capping? I'm capping. I don't know what I'm saying. But Bloom, I think it says a lot about us when you're like, I welcome all a conversation. And I'm like, shut up, dummies. Anyway, get off my lawn. Everyone out there, if you're traveling for the holidays, travel safe, and be neighborly. I can't remember who I was watching, Bloom.
Mm-hmm.
There was some program, but they were just like, I think it was Dave Chappelle's interview on Joe Rogan. And he was like, wearing a mask is just being neighborly. So be neighborly. Go out there and do all those right things. Everyone stay safe and wash your damn hands and all those kind of good things. But mainly just enjoy the personal interaction that we get. However, we have to get it now, even if it's through podcasting or what have you. So and watch that Chappelle interview because it's awesome because, of course, it's Dave Chappelle. Anyway, he's Sigmund Bloom. I'm Cecil Lammey saying thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned. And as always, stay frosty.